Welcome back to Sawtooth Tactical, your source for Second Amendment news, gun reviews, and more. Today, of course, we are talking about ATF's final rule on pistols with attached stabilizing braces once again. And the reason for that is because the ATF is always taking fun and always taking freedom. It's what they do. We have 3 weeks left until the Amnesty period is up. That ends at the end of May, and some decisions are going to have to be made. Let's talk about what's happening to help us out before then, what's not happening, and what we might have to do about it. So this entire amnesty period has reinforced something that I already knew. So the whole reason that many of us own firearms is because we take responsibility for our own safety, because we don't believe that the police or someone else is going to come save us in a situation. And so that's why we have firearms, so that we can handle things ourselves if we have to. Well, this amnesty period for the stabilizing brace rule has worked in much the same way, unfortunately. When this whole thing started, I thought that for sure one of these lawsuits or even the House of Representatives would do something to end this brace rule before the amnesty period was up. Well, that has turned out to be nothing. Nothing good has happened for us. There's still ongoing lawsuits, but we haven't gotten any kind of temporary injunction to stop the rule from going into effect. You know, the House of Representatives, the Judiciary Committee had a hearing. There was a lot of great comedic gold with Director Steve Dettelbach and the questioning that they put him through. And they did vote to nullify the pistol brace rule. But again, that really doesn't do us any good, does it? It still needs to go to a full vote in the House of Representatives, then a vote in the Senate, and then it would have to go to President Biden's desk, where there is a 0% chance that he would sign that, as he's the one that told the ATF to do this whole rulemaking process about pistol braces in the first place. So we're still exactly where we were when this thing was put into action over 3 months ago. We have 3 weeks left now, and a lot of people are going to have to start making some decisions, unfortunately. Now, a ton of people, when this whole thing began, were like, I'm going to hold this out. I'm going to not do anything until the 11th hour. And when it comes down to it, if I have to, then I will register my gun, put a longer barrel on it, remove the brace, whatever you have to do to comply. A lot of other people have said, I will not comply. Well, if you will not comply, you might as well take the brace off, replace it with a stock, and drill that third hole, because it's essentially the same thing. So I am fundamentally against this pistol brace rule, against this unconstitutional overreach by the ATF, but I also understand if people do what they feel like they have to do. It's an unfortunate situation that we're stuck in now. We're kind of between a rock and a hard place. Now, we do have some slightly comforting news that came out of the House Judiciary Committee hearing. There was some questioning, and Director Dettelbach said that you could take the brace and the business end of the gun, separate them, remove the brace from the firearm, and keep them separate, and that there would be no constructive intent as far as prosecuting someone for owning these two items. Which does make sense, because forever you've been able to own an AR pistol and also own stocks in your home, rifle stocks, but they haven't necessarily considered it an illegal SBR. And so that was one of the concerning things here, was that just having this and also having this would equal constructive intent, and that you could be prosecuted for that. because it would be easy to just put the two together and have what they are now calling an illegal SBR out of what was once your perfectly legal AR pistol. Well, he stammered a lot, and it was what it was, but basically, this is fine as long as they're stored separately in your home.
Do not have to register anything. They can keep the brace, they can keep the business end of the gun.
Okay, that's a great clarification. So you're not going to do some kind of constructive prosecution where you say, oh, well, you had this and you had that and you intended to connect
They're keeping them. I mean, if
they can just keep them
attaching
separately?
them as we
Keep them
approach
separately.
but
okay, because that's not clear in your rules.
The problem that I have with this is that I wouldn't have spent all this money and all this time building out a 300 blackout, an 11.5-inch AR and 5.56. I have another short AR, 9mm. All of them have had braces on them. And the AR-9, I feel like I could shoot like this just fine. I mean, I could probably shoot them all just fine that way, but they're not comfortable. They're not nearly as stabilized, hence stabilizing brace. And so they're just not as effective, not as accurate. I'm coming toward what hopefully should be the end of the waiting period for my suppressor for my 300 blackout. And I want to be able to use this in the way that I designed it to be used. And I'm sure a lot of other people are in that same boat. And so even by taking these off, yeah, you could do that. You could wait. The judicial process takes a long time. Lawsuits take a long time. Possibly, in fact, I'm still very confident that eventually this rule will get overturned. It will get nullified, just like the whole thing did with bump stocks. But it may take years, just like the bump stock thing did. And the whole reason that any of us had braces in the first place, again, whether you want to admit it or not, was you were complying. You were keeping your firearm legal instead of having an illegal SBR in your possession. That was a big reason why many people own braces. I understand that they're designed for injured veterans, for people with, reasons that they can't fire one of these larger pistols with two hands to stabilize it on your forearm. But also, many people had these in order to not have an illegal SBR. Just admit it, it's the truth. And so, I understand if people don't want to now, all of a sudden, have an illegal SBR. So you can either wait with your brace off of the thing. That might be the best decision to make for you and your family. I also, as much as I am, like I said, fundamentally opposed to this rule, I do understand if people at this point are going to decide to go through the Amnesty registration tax-free Form 1 process. Just know that if you're going to do that, it's a little more complicated than you might think it is if you've never done that before. So I do have, like I said, a suppressor in jail right now. I have gone through the process. It's not just something where at the last minute on May 30th, you can go online and get this done real quick. Now, the ATF has said that as long as you have your application in by the end of the deadline, you can still have possession of your firearm in the form that it's in until you get your approval. Hopefully you get an approval. And so that is fine. But you need to get fingerprints done. You need to take a picture. There's a lot of information that needs to go into the Form 1 application. If it's something you've never done before, and that is what you plan to do, again, like I said, at the 11th hour, which we're coming down to now, I would do a little research and look into what all it entails. Silencer Shop has a great wealth of knowledge on that. And in fact, many gun stores have Silencer Shop kiosks. That's what I used for my suppressor. You can get your fingerprints, your picture, your everything done right then and there. If you've already, done NFA items in the past, then they already have your information if you've used one of those kiosks. And so that could be a very helpful thing for you as well. And the more I think about this, if you already do own NFA items or have applied for tax stamps for NFA items, well, then they've already got all your information anyway. And so if we're worried about the ATF coming door to door to confiscate firearms, because let's get real here, throughout history, registration has always led to confiscation. And that is kind of the big worry here. But if you're not worried about that, you already have NFA items, you already have things registered, then I understand if, in order to keep your gun collection legal, that's what you decide that you have to do. Before this whole thing started, I had already planned to SBR my 11.5-inch 5.56 and my 300 blackout at some point. Once this rule came out, it actually changed my mind and made it so that I didn't want to register these, just because I'm so opposed to what the ATF is doing, taking away our constitutional rights. Always taking fun, always taking freedom. That seems to be their mantra these days, their modus operandi. They're not really focusing on going after violent criminals, but more on making criminals out of law-abiding gun owners. So I get if you decide that that's what you have to do, because then at least they won't make a criminal out of you. Or if you have to take this off, or if you're not going to comply. I've got a lot of respect for that. But just understand that you might as well just put a stop on it then. And no, I am not saying that anyone should break the law on my YouTube channel on this public forum. But I'm just stating that not complying and keeping your pistol brace on is literally the same thing as having a stock on it. It's actually the same thing as having an auto sear in your gun. At that point, you have an unregistered NFA item, and that does have a statutory maximum penalty of 10 years in prison and a $250,000 fine. So you have to understand and you have to decide if this is the hill that you're willing to die on. A lot of us have families that rely on us. And so, you have to weigh these things. You have to stand up for our freedom and for our rights on one hand. But on the other hand, is it worth risking going to prison and leaving our families without us? That is a decision that everyone is going to have to make for themselves. Now, do I believe that the ATF is going to go door to door looking for AR pistols with braces on them? Probably not. But at the same time, is the purpose of your gun just to hide it in your closet, in your safe, under your bed, because it's in an illegal configuration? Or is the purpose of your gun for some kind of defensive use? Or do you actually enjoy going out and shooting your gun, training and practicing with it? Because if you do you really want to have to worry every time you go out that you're going to get seen with a brace on your pistol by the wrong person? Do you want to have to worry that if you need to use it to defend your home in a break-in or something, that you do everything perfectly legal self-defense, justified, all good, but it turns out that you had an unregistered, illegal NFA item? These are all things that you got to think about. Make the right decision for you. I can't make that decision for anyone, and no one can make it for me but myself. These are just some things that we all need to think about and then make that decision. One more thing to think about is if you do decide to register your firearm, I think a lot of people have waited this whole time. They asked Director Dettelbeck how many people have complied with this rule so far, and he didn't have an answer for them, probably because it was a relatively embarrassing answer, because I bet not a lot of people have complied with this rule and registered their firearms yet. But I do think that there's a lot of people that were hoping for something to happen so that they wouldn't have to deal with this, and nothing has happened. And so there might be a lot of people registering them right at the last minute. And if you've ever used the ATF website, it is like still from like 1986. It is a very slow, clunky website, and I don't think it's going to handle up to 40 million people registering these all at the same time. So just think about that. If you're going to do it, maybe don't wait till the last day, because that website might just crash with so many people trying to do this at the last minute. Anyway, I hate to bring you guys bad news, but I have made it a point to update my audience on what is going on this pistol brace rule. Since before it was published in the Federal Register, I've made videos about this almost every single Sunday. Please subscribe to Sawtooth Tactical and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss any of my videos. I put out 3 videos every week, Sunday, Tuesday, and Friday. Sunday are this style of video, news about the Second Amendment, what is happening right now as far as what's left of our gun rights. Tuesdays and Fridays, I have range videos, I do build series, I review different firearms and products. So there is a lot of good stuff coming out of the Sawtooth Tactical YouTube channel. So make sure that you check back often, because I'm always coming out with good new stuff. So leave me a comment. Let me know if you feel comfortable doing it. Let me know what you're going to do about this. And I reply to every comment, so I really appreciate those. They also help the algorithm. So does a like, a thumbs up, sharing this, all that kind of stuff really helps me out. Gets this kind of content, gets this news out to more people, and is greatly, greatly appreciated. So from Sawtooth Tactical, stay strapped or get clapped.